And I'm here with award-winning actress Ashley Bratcher. Ashley, welcome to the Andrew Burnett Show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Andrew.
Absolutely. So share with us where your love for acting really developed.
I feel like that's a little bit of a loaded question. I think that as a child, movies were always my way to escape. My childhood wasn't perfect. And so I fell in love with all of these imaginary worlds that took me somewhere else and just made me feel really good. And when I was older, I started to understand, that people were creating these worlds, that there were storytellers that were crafting these beautiful stories and these characters and these actors. And so in high school, that was when I first got involved in drama and theater, never really thinking it would be something I would pursue as a career. And it wasn't until my senior year of college, when I was getting a totally different degree, that I just by happenstance fell back into acting. And that's a whole other story we can get into as we go. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started, I'll say.
So you've had the opportunity to star in many Christian films such as War Room, Princess Cut 2, 90 Minutes in Heaven, and others. As I'm sure there are many, is there one memorable moment that sticks out to you from a set that has happened so far in your career?
Oh, most definitely. Without a doubt, Unplanned is the game changer for me. It was the most life-changing experience I ever had all the way around. And there were specific moments on set. I mean, if you know my personal story with my mom and things like that, and um, on set, I had found out that I was actually intended to be aborted, and I didn't know that until I had opened up to my mom about what the movie was about. I knew that she had had an abortion in high school, and just kind of dancing around the storyline very delicately. And as I was, she shared with me that she was actually in the abortion clinic on the table to abort me when she got up and walked out and decided to have me. And I never knew that until I was already on the set of Unplanned working. So, most definitely, that was a life changing moment, beyond just being on set and acting. And then moving forward with the film and having that passion in my heart and my own personal testimony, I think just propelled me forward to continue on that path.
So, in the film Unplanned, you had the opportunity to portray Abby Johnson, who is now the voice for pro life. Share with us what it was like to be able to just star in that role.
Yeah, I think when you take on the role of a real life person, there's this expectation and this pressure that isn't always there in other roles. And I really wanted to make sure that I was making her happy and telling the story as authentically as possible. And I didn't get to spend a lot of time with her, honestly. I was able to have maybe one or two phone calls with her prior to going into the role, doing a lot of research, listening to her interviews, and then on set, I think we had already been filming for a couple of weeks when she finally came to set and was able to visit. And the biggest compliment I got was the first scene that she was there. Her friend kind of elbowed her when it was over. And she was like, Abby, that is so you. And so it felt really good to have that affirmation that I was portraying her authentically and understanding her mindset and her heart and where she was in that point in her life.
So, your recent project that you're working on currently is a film that highlights the career of Dr. Francis Kelsey and the tactics of Big Pharma. Why did you choose the story of Dr. Kelsey?
Coming out of Unplanned, um, I knew that there were going to be certain opportunities that would no longer exist for me. And I knew that other doors had been opened for a purpose. I had given my career back to the Lord in 2012 and just really said, okay, God, guide me. And when I did Unplanned, I knew, okay, now's the time. The phone is no longer going to be ringing off the hook. I've got to make a decision here. And it felt like it was the perfect opportunity to jump in and start producing movies because I knew that I wanted to tell stories that matter. I wanted to tell stories about people who had an impact on the world in a positive way. And I'm really passionate about telling women's stories. That's just kind of where my heart is. I'm a woman. I want to tell strong women's stories. And I started looking through a bunch of scripts online, from different writers who had uploaded them to this database. And I probably read well over 100 when I came to this script called Pharma. And I read it and just thought immediately, wow, First of all, I can't believe I've never heard this story, that it's true, that thalidomide existed, that she did all these things, and I never knew. And so I thought, well, if I never knew, there must be so many other people who don't know this story. It's an important one. Let's make sure it gets told. So I reached out to the screenwriter. It was the first screenplay she'd ever written. She's actually a practicing attorney, which is also really cool. Really, really wonderful, talented woman. And we talked about it and kind of her vision and her involvement and where she saw it going. And we just agreed, okay, you know what, let's go for it. Let's make this happen. And a first time producer taking it on, I just went full force into it. Shortly after I optioned it, COVID happened. So it was like, okay, not only am I a first time producer trying to make this incredible period piece that's set in the 1960s, but now I have all of these things stacked up against me. But what was also really interesting is that the story became even more timely, because this wasn't happening when I optioned the script. You know, nobody was really talking about big pharma as much. Yeah, there had been scandals in the past. There's the opioid epidemic, which more people are talking about now. But it wasn't this hot button kind of controversial topic until COVID happened. And it was never my intention to like jump into it, but it just kind of happened where, I don't know, maybe it's a God thing where I got this script and then we went through a pandemic for 2 years. And now coming out of it, I think there's more and more information coming out every day. So the film is becoming even more and more relevant. Yeah, it happened in the 1960s, but I always think it's important to take a healthy look into history to kind of apply it and question things that happen today.
So, what message do you hope viewers get when they watch the film Pharma?
The biggest takeaway is courage. I think that it takes a lot of courage to stand in the face of adversity and do the right thing. Frances Kelsey was one of the only women working at the FDA in the 1960s. And she risked her career. Her family was being trailed. Her husband had lost out in major jobs because she was essentially being a whistleblower, and she was preventing this drug that was sold only second to aspirin. Thalidomide was being sold second to aspirin. That's how popular it was all over the world. And she was blocking it from coming into the state. So it was a big moneymaker for pharma. And there was a lot of corruption between pharma and the FDA. So the odds were stacked against her. So courage is the thing for me. Like, what does it take for someone to be strong enough that no matter what, you're going to do the right thing? And I hope that it encourages people when they step out of the theater or when they finish watching it, wherever it's going to be, that they say, yeah, that's what we need to do as a society. We need to stand up for the right thing always.
And also, from another standpoint, what do you hope that, as far as bringing awareness to big pharma, how do you hope that it would do that?
I think that it raises a lot of healthy skepticism. I'm not going into this with some sort of political agenda. I hate when movies are kind of skewed, you know, and they just tell a one side of the story. Like, I just want to tell the story. I just want to tell the truth. There's all this talk about, you know, like my truth and your truth, and I just want to tell the truth. Like, this is the story that happened. This was Frances Kelsey's experience. Here are the facts. Now, form your own opinion. Should we be skeptics? Yeah. Anytime that a for-profit corporation is working with a government entity, we should question that. And we should say, okay, why is somebody who's making a lot of money here working with the government and pushing something? I want to know, you know, like I want to know the details. How did what she did change the course of history? And how is what she did affecting what's going on now? I think that we want people to be healthy skeptics. We don't want extremists by any means. We want people to go into this with an open mind and just know the facts. And that's what we're hoping here.
So there's a special opportunity for all the viewers today to partner with you to help this film continue even further. How can we partner with you in that way?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. We are partnered up with our distributor, Angel Studios. Angel Studios is the studio that brought Everyone the Chosen, which is a global sensation. So many people, I think, has been viewed hundreds of millions of times, have seen this true story of Jesus, because Angel has done such a really great job, and they have a unique model where people all over the world have been able to watch it. So we really believe in Angel's ability to help us tell this story. And part of partnering with Angel is that we have an opportunity for the general public to invest in the film. Now, typically, only accredited investors who have a specific income can invest in movies. Well, this presents the opportunity, this I would call it like an initial public offering, right? For the general public. It's not a donation by any means, it's an investment. So the general public is able to invest in the film and then reap the same benefits that any other accredited investor would get by investing in movies.
That is awesome. So, being a Christian actress, how do you hope that the qualities that you act impact Hollywood?
I think that the greatest testimony that you have is your life and the way you live it. And I tell people this all the time because it's one thing to lay out the principles of what it means to be a Christian, right? And to say, this is how you get saved and this is how you live in a Christian life. And I think it's a totally different thing to just live it, for people to look at you and say, your life is different. How do you have peace in the midst of this chaos? You know, set is very chaotic for one. And so when you can just kind of be calm in the moment and everyone else around you might be losing their minds, if you can stay calm and someone comes to you and they're like, how are you keeping it together? And you're like, Jesus is keeping it together for me. Then it's something that I think people are like, and it makes them scratch their head and look at your life a little bit more. So just living your life in a way that you can love people where they are. You wouldn't believe the impact it has working in movies, because there's so many people that have come up to me and be like, oh, you're a normal Christian. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I'm just a Christian. I'm not just like a normal Christian. I'm just a Christian. And I think it says a lot to people when you can just love them, and it spreads like wildfire. And I think that people are attracted to that, whether they know it or not. They are attracted to that. And so I think that people come back to you. Sometimes people that you wouldn't expect will come back and ask you to pray for them. People that I have known to be self-proclaimed atheists have reached out later to me and said, I don't know if this works, but would you pray for me? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. And people remember. So that's the biggest way you make an impact, is just be excellent in your craft so that you have those opportunities, and then just meet people where they are, because they don't forget it.
So, during your career of acting, as I'm sure there have been many pinch me moments when you have met a certain individual in the entertainment industry, has there been one that has made a long lasting impact on you?
hmm. I'm trying to think, because there's been so many different pieces of wisdom that people have left me with. Hmm. I know there's so much advice that people have thrown my way. Well, I don't know that it's necessarily an actor. I'll tell you a funny story and then I'll tell you a serious story. So on 90 Minutes in Heaven, I worked with Hayden Christensen. And as most people know, he was Darth Vader in the prequels to Star Wars. Whether you love them or hate them, he was still Darth Vader, okay? And at the time, I was not a huge Star Wars fan. So I was just kind of like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. And later, I became a huge Star Wars fan. So like, I have this regret where I'm like, oh, why didn't I take a picture? Why didn't I like talk more to Darth Vader? And so that for me, I'm like, oh man, I hate that I didn't talk to him more, because I just didn't have an appreciation for what he had done. And I'm actually really excited he's going to take on that role more. So that's my funny story. But my serious story is not someone who was an actor. Very early in my career, I want to say it was before I'd really booked anything. It was in 2012. I had an instructor who had us all sit down and write a letter to ourselves. We took like an hour to write a letter to ourselves about why we wanted to be in this industry. And it's so important, because if you don't know why, then you really just kind of flounder. And if you remember that why every time you do something, I think it helps you to stay grounded and to remember pushing forward. This was my goal. And we weren't allowed to open it. We had to seal it, and it had to stay closed for 10 years. And so I'm not allowed to open my letter until next year. I know where it is. I kind of remember what it says. But that was a defining moment for me, where someone finally said, hey, are you in this to make money? Are you in it for fame? Do you just want to entertain people? Why are you doing this? And it helped me. It really did. It's helped, like it. I put roots in the ground then, and I said, okay, I'm going to plant myself here for this reason. And it was one of the most impactful things that happened in my career.
So, besides Pharma, is there any other projects that we can expect to see you in anytime soon?
I started writing. So I did write a Christmas movie with a best-selling author. Her name is Courtney Walsh, and it's a really lovely, fun story. It's called The Merry Time Matchmaker. It's set at the beach. It's not a traditional Christmas movie. It's like I said, it's set at the beach, so you get to see Santa Claus walking out with seashells and things like that. It's really fun. And then I wrote another faith-based romantic comedy that I'm hoping to partner with PureFlix on. And what a lot of people don't know right now is that I'm also working more behind the camera, yes, as a producer, but I'm wanting to direct. So there's a couple of projects that I may be attached to direct. And so in addition to acting, maybe I'm going to step behind the camera some. I love working with actors and direct some movies. I feel like as a storyteller, that's where you get to steer the ship and kind of explore the vision. So I'm really excited about that. And then just looking for more stories. There's a lot of really strong women, real women. I love these biopics about strong women. So I've got some in my pipeline that we haven't announced yet, but just in between, I'm a creative. I like all of it. I want to be a storyteller. So writing, producing, directing, I live for these stories that I think will impact people in a positive way.
Well, Ashley, I have had a complete blast with you. I'll be honest, I have been counting this down like all week. So I am excited that I finally had a chance to sit down and chat with you. Tell our viewers how they can find out more about you or Pharma, or how we can give to Pharma.
Absolutely. So with Pharma, you just go to angel.com/pharma to find out all the information about how to be involved, how to be an investor, as well as see a little bit of a teaser. We filmed a proof of concept that has a little bit of a teaser about the story. If you don't know who Frances Kelsey was and you're not familiar with thalidomide and how it affected people, that's a great place to start. Get familiar with the story, how she fought the corruption within the FDA and Big Pharma. It's a really, really amazing story. I mean, I could just go on and on and on about it. But that's the place to start, angel.com/pharma. And then I love connecting with people personally. Instagram is kind of my main place. If you go to Instagram, I am _Ashley Bratcher. That's my handle there. And if you look up Ashley Bratcher on Facebook, that's where I am. And then _Ashley Bratcher on Twitter. I hide a little bit more on Twitter because I feel like Twitter is kind of like a not so fun place, but I'm there. So if you tweet me, I'll retweet, but I just don't spend as much time on Twitter.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. God bless you. And we look forward to having you on again sometime.
Thank you, Andrew. It was my pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye.